500 years ago, a disgraced Italian diplomat sat in exile, watching his political career burn to ashes. Niccolò Machiavelli had seen empires rise and fall. He'd watched good men destroyed by those they trusted. He'd witnessed betrayal so elegant, so perfectly disguised, that victims thanked their executioners. And in his isolation, he wrote something that would echo through centuries: a manual on power, deception, and the darkest corners of human nature. But here's what most people miss about Machiavelli. He wasn't teaching you how to become a monster. He was teaching you how to recognize them before they devoured you. Today, you're walking among predators. They're in your family dinners. They're in your group chats. They're sitting across from you at coffee shops, smiling, nodding, collecting data. And you have no idea, because the most dangerous people don't look dangerous. They look helpful. They look successful. They look like friends. In the next few minutes, I'm going to introduce you to 7 archetypes of human toxicity that Machiavelli identified through decades of political warfare. 7 personality types that will systematically dismantle your life if you don't learn to spot them. And if your pulse just quickened, if you suddenly thought of a specific face, trust that instinct. Your subconscious already knows who they are. Now your conscious mind is about to catch up. Let's pull back the curtain on the theatre of human deception. Machiavelli understood something profound about power. It's not always taken by force. Sometimes it's surrendered willingly, one small concession at a time. The subtle colonizer doesn't invade your life. They immigrate into it, bringing gifts. Let me tell you about Marcus and his colleague, Elena. She started at his company 6 months ago. Within 2 weeks, she was bringing him coffee. "I was already getting one for myself," she'd say. Then she started staying late to help with his projects. "I needed the practice. Anyway." She volunteered to pick up his dry cleaning when he mentioned he was swamped. She offered to dog sit when he had an emergency. She remembered his mother's birthday and sent flowers on his behalf. Marcus felt grateful, lucky even. Finally, someone who understood teamwork. But then the requests started. Small at first. Could he review her presentation? Could he mention her name in the leadership meeting? Could he put in a good word for her promotion? And when Marcus hesitated, when he said he was too busy, Eleanor's face would fall. "After all those times I helped you," she'd say quietly. Not angry, just hurt. That's when Marcus realized he'd never asked for any of those favors. She'd installed them like software he didn't request. And now she was running programs in his life without his permission. The subtle colonizer weaponizes generosity. They create debts you never agreed to incur. Every unrequested favor is a hook, and they're patient fishermen. They'll wait months, even years, to pull the line taut. Machiavelli wrote that people are more concerned with their property than with injuries. The colonizer understands this instinctively. They don't want your possessions. They want something more valuable, your sense of obligation. Here's how they operate. They study your needs before you voice them. They fill gaps you didn't know existed. They make themselves indispensable by solving problems you weren't aware you had. And once you're dependent, once their assistance has woven itself into your daily routine, they present the bill. The price is never money. It's compliance. It's loyalty. It's your voice in rooms where decisions are made. It's your reputation lending weight to their agenda. You become a puppet who thinks he's choosing his own movements. The test is simple. Try to refuse their next offer of help. Say, "Thank you, but I'll handle it myself." Watch their reaction. If they respect your boundary, they were genuinely kind. If they seem offended, confused, or hurt, if they remind you of past favors, you've found your colonizer. Machiavelli advised princes to be wary of those who are too eager to serve without being asked, because service without request is often subjugation in disguise. True generosity asks for nothing in return. The colonizer's generosity comes with invisible price tags that only become visible when you try to walk away. And by then, you've already been purchased. In Renaissance Italy, There was a type of mercenary captain called a condottiero. These men had a peculiar business model. They'd create conflicts between city-states, then sell their services to resolve them. Problem and solution, both from the same source. The chaos merchant operates on the same principle. Sarah noticed it about her friend Rachel after a year of increasingly weird incidents. There was the time Rachel told Sarah that their mutual friend Jessica was talking behind her back. When Sarah confronted Jessica, Jessica was bewildered. She'd never said those things. Then Rachel warned Sarah that their boss seemed angry with her. "I overheard him on the phone. I think you should be careful." Sarah spent a week walking on eggshells, apologizing preemptively, until her confused boss finally asked what was wrong. He'd never been upset. Every week, there was a new fire to put out, a new misunderstanding to clarify, a new relationship that suddenly felt strained. And somehow, Rachel was always there, in the center of the smoke, offering comfort and advice. The chaos merchant thrives in turbulence. They need you destabilized because a calm, centered person doesn't need a crisis manager. So they manufacture emergencies. They plant seeds of doubt. They relay selectively edited information designed to trigger conflict. I probably shouldn't tell you this, but is their favorite opening. They present themselves as reluctant messengers, burdened by truth, when in reality, they're arsonists who volunteer as firefighters. Machiavelli observed that in times of peace, ambitious men create war. The chaos merchant is permanently ambitious for your attention, your dependence, your emotional energy, and peace doesn't generate those resources, drama does. Here's their pattern. They isolate you by creating conflict between you and others. They position themselves as your only reliable ally. They keep you in a constant state of mild anxiety, always waiting for the next bomb to drop. And in that fog of confusion, you cling to them because they seem like the only stable point. But they're not stable. They're the earthquake, not the shelter. The most insidious part, they rarely lie outright. They deal in partial truths, strategic omissions, and implications. I'm just saying what I heard is their shield. They present themselves as neutral observers, but their observations always serve a purpose, to destabilize your other relationships so you remain tethered to them. Machiavelli wrote that a wise prince keeps his state in such stability that no one can sow discord. The chaos merchant counts on you being an unwise prince of your own life. The test: track the pattern. Is there always drama around this person? Do conflicts mysteriously resolve when you distance yourself from them? Do other people in your life express confusion about information you receive through this person? If the common denominator of chaos is them, you're not experiencing bad luck. You're experiencing tactical destabilization, and the only way to win that game is to refuse to play. There's a specific kind of hunger that masquerades as admiration. Machiavelli encountered it constantly in the courts of Florence, people who praised your success while secretly plotting to steal the credit. The achievement vampire doesn't want what you have. They want the world to believe they earned it. Daniel was a software developer with a brilliant solution to a persistent coding problem. He mentioned it casually to his teammate, Chris, during lunch. Chris's eyes lit up. "That's genius, walk me through it." Daniel, flattered by the interest, explained his entire approach. The algorithms, the workarounds, the elegant solution he'd spent weeks developing. 3 days later, in a company-wide meeting, Chris presented his innovative approach to solving the exact problem. Same solution, same language, different name on the credit line. When Daniel confronted him privately, Chris seemed genuinely confused. "We both worked on it, man. I thought we were collaborating." The gaslighting was so smooth, Daniel almost doubted his own memory. The achievement vampire operates through a specific sequence: excessive interest, extraction, appropriation, and finally, amnesia. They ask questions that sound like admiration, but function as reconnaissance. They get you to explain your process in detail under the guise of learning from you. Then they repackage your work as their own, and if confronted, they reframe the theft as collaboration. Machiavelli wrote extensively about glory and how men pursue it. He understood that some people lack the capacity for original achievement, but possess an overwhelming need for recognition. This creates a dangerous combination: ambition without ability, hunger without skill. The achievement vampire targets people who are generous with their knowledge. They look for those who love explaining their work, who get excited sharing their breakthroughs. They exploit your enthusiasm, your openness, your desire to contribute to collective knowledge. And here's the cruelest part: they often justify it to themselves. Ideas are meant to be shared. We're all on the same team. They would have figured it out eventually anyway. They rewrite the narrative in their own minds until they genuinely believe they co-created what they actually stole. The warning signs are specific. They ask for unusually detailed explanations of your methods. They take extensive notes during casual conversations about your projects. They ask to pick your brain frequently. And shortly after these conversations, opportunities that should have been yours somehow become theirs. Machiavelli advised that a prince must guard his plans, revealing them only when necessary and only to trusted allies. In the modern context, this means protecting your intellectual capital until it's officially documented as yours. The test: share an idea but withhold a crucial component. See if they try to implement the incomplete version. If they do, you've confirmed they were mining your knowledge, not learning from you. The achievement vampire sees your creativity as a resource to be extracted. And unlike real resources, creativity can be stolen without anyone noticing it's gone until it shows up elsewhere with someone else's signature. Machiavelli made a chilling observation. Sometimes the most damage is done by those who claim to have no idea what they're doing. The innocent destructor leaves a trail of wreckage, but never accepts accountability because they genuinely don't believe they're responsible. Meet Jennifer. She's everyone's friend. Warm, effusive, always volunteering for projects. But if you watch closely, you'll notice something strange. Projects she touches tend to fail. Relationships around her tend to fracture. Opportunities she gets involved with tend to evaporate. But it's never her fault. The budget wasn't clear. The timeline was unrealistic. Other people didn't communicate properly. The circumstances were impossible. She's always the victim of external forces, never the architect of outcomes. Jennifer borrowed money from 3 different friends and forgot to pay them back until they awkwardly reminded her. She volunteered to organize a group trip and made reservations for the wrong dates, costing everyone their deposits. She committed to a major deadline at work and missed it, creating a cascade of failures for the entire team. Each time, her response was the same: wide-eyed surprise, profuse apologies, and a narrative that positioned her as overwhelmed, trying her best, let down by systems or other people. The innocent destructor has weaponized incompetence, not the deliberate kind where someone pretends they can't do something. This is deeper. They actually believe they're competent while consistently proving otherwise, and their conviction makes them impossible to confront. Machiavelli understood that perception of intent matters in politics. If people believe you meant well, they'll forgive tremendous damage. The innocent destructor has internalized this lesson at a cellular level. They've learned that perpetual innocence is better armor than actual competence. Here's what makes them dangerous. They're not learning from mistakes because they don't truly own them. Each disaster is externalized. Each failure is everyone else's fault or the result of impossible circumstances. And because they never accept ownership, they never develop the self-awareness necessary to change. They move through life like a drunk driver who swears they're fine, leaving crashes in their wake, always shocked when people get hurt. The pattern is recognizable. Chronic underperformance paired with chronic excuses. A trail of burned bridges they don't understand. Former friends who just stopped talking to them for no reason. Jobs that weren't a good fit. Translation: they were fired. projects they couldn't complete because of circumstances beyond their control. Translation: they failed. Machiavelli wrote that men judge by the eye rather than by the hand. Everyone can see, but few can feel. The innocent destructor looks harmless, even sympathetic. They seem like someone who needs help, support, another chance. But what they actually need is distance from people they can damage. The test is brutal but necessary. Give them responsibility for something that matters to you, but won't destroy you if it fails. Something with a clear deadline, clear instructions, clear expectations. Then watch what happens. If they fail, and the excuse is immediate, detailed, and externalized, you've identified your innocent destructor. And the kindest thing you can do for both of you is to never depend on them again. In Machiavelli's time, a prince's greatest danger came from those who constantly questioned the loyalty of others. Not to protect the prince, but to position themselves as the only truly loyal subject. The loyalty auditor operates the same way today. Kevin noticed it in his friendship with Tom. Whenever Kevin mentioned spending time with other friends, Tom's energy would shift. "Oh, you're hanging out with Brad again. Interesting. I thought after what he said about you." "What did he say?" "Never mind. I probably shouldn't have mentioned it. I just think it's weird that you trust him." Tom never provided specifics, just implications, vague warnings, a constant drip of doubt about everyone in Kevin's life except, conveniently, Tom himself. When Kevin got close to a woman he was dating, Tom expressed concern. "She seems great, but I just want to make sure she really appreciates you. I've seen some red flags." "Like what?" "Just be careful. That's all I'm saying. I've got your back." The loyalty auditor creates an us versus them dynamic, where us is just you and them is everyone else in your life. They conduct constant surveillance of your other relationships, interpreting normal human behavior as signs of betrayal, always finding evidence that you're not properly valued, not truly appreciated, potentially at risk. Their goal is singular: to become your only trusted advisor, your only true friend, your only safe harbor. And they achieve this not by being exceptionally trustworthy themselves, but by systematically undermining your trust in everyone else. Machiavelli warned against courtiers who drive wedges between a prince and his allies. They don't serve the prince, they serve their own indispensability. The loyalty auditor thrives on isolation, yours, not theirs. They want you to doubt everyone except them. They want you dependent on their interpretation of reality. They want to be the filter through which all your relationships pass. The irony: they're often the least loyal people in your life, because true loyalty doesn't require constantly questioning everyone else's. Secure relationships don't need audits. Trust doesn't demand surveillance. The test: mention getting close to someone new and watch their reaction. If they immediately express concern, ask probing questions, or offer vague warnings without evidence, you've found your loyalty auditor. Machiavelli believed a wise prince trusts his own judgment more than any counselor's whispers. The loyalty auditor counts on you doubting yourself enough to accept their paranoia as protection. But protection that isolates you from everyone isn't protection, it's imprisonment. And the loyalty auditor isn't your guard, they're your warden. Machiavelli understood that power often comes from knowing exactly how far you can push before resistance appears. The boundary archaeologist has made this into an art form. They're excavating your limits, carefully, methodically, one brushstroke at a time. Maria noticed it with her mother-in-law, Patricia. It started with unexpected visits. "I was in the neighborhood." Then it was using the spare key Maria had given her for emergencies to let herself in when Maria wasn't home. "I wanted to drop off some food." When Maria gently suggested a call before visiting, Patricia agreed enthusiastically, then showed up unannounced the next week. "Oh, I forgot. I'm so sorry. I won't do it again." But she did. Again and again. Each time with apologies so sincere, refusal so effortless, that Maria felt cruel pointing it out. Patricia was testing. Where was the real boundary? At what point would Maria actually enforce consequences rather than just express discomfort? The boundary archaeologist is searching for that line, and they find it by repeatedly crossing your stated boundaries while monitoring your response. This is a specific form of psychological excavation. They're not attacking your boundaries directly. They're using a technique Machiavelli would recognize: incremental transgression. Cross the line slightly, apologize, wait for forgiveness, then cross it slightly further. Each violation is small enough to seem not worth a confrontation, but the aggregate effect is complete erosion. The boundary archaeologist is brilliant at manufacturing plausible deniability. I forgot. I didn't realize. I thought it would be okay just this once. They position their violations as innocent mistakes rather than systematic testing. And here's the genius. They make you feel like the problem. You're too rigid, too sensitive, too controlling. They were just trying to help, just being spontaneous, just showing affection. Your boundaries become character flaws they're trying to help you overcome. Machiavelli advised that it's better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. The modern translation: it's better to be respected than liked if you cannot be both. The boundary archaeologist is betting that your need to be liked will override your need to be respected. The test is definitive. State a boundary clearly. Then watch what happens the next time that situation arises. If they violate it and the excuse is immediate, you're being tested. If they violate it repeatedly, the test has concluded. They've determined your boundaries are suggestions, not rules. Machiavelli knew that a prince who cannot enforce his own laws becomes a subject in his own territory. You cannot enforce boundaries you're afraid to defend. And the boundary archaeologist can smell fear like a shark smells blood. The most dangerous rival, Machiavelli observed, is the one who pretends to be an ally while constantly measuring himself against you. The shadow competitor doesn't challenge you openly. They orbit you, study you, and secretly compete with you in ways you're not supposed to notice. Robert didn't realize his friend Marcus was actually his competitor until the pattern became impossible to ignore. Every achievement Robert shared was met with Marco's matching or superior story. Got a promotion? Marco's was bigger. Bought a house? Marco's had more square footage. Started dating someone? Marco's girlfriend was more attractive, more successful, more everything. It wasn't just conversation. Marco had started dressing like Robert, working out at the same gym, buying the same brands, dating women who looked similar to Robert's girlfriend. It was subtle enough that pointing it out seemed paranoid, but consistent enough that Robert finally couldn't unsee it. The shadow competitor is running a race you didn't know you entered. They've chosen you as their benchmark, their measuring stick, their standard of comparison, and everything in their life is calibrated to exceed yours by just enough to feel superior, but not so much that the competition becomes obvious. This isn't admiration. Admiration celebrates your success. The shadow competitor resents it while trying to duplicate it. Machiavelli understood that envy is more dangerous than hatred. An enemy wants to destroy you. The envious want to become you while simultaneously diminishing you. They're trying to acquire your life while denying you credit for building it. The shadow competitor studies your life like it's a textbook. They note what works, what gets attention, what generates respect. Then they implement the same strategies while pretending they thought of them independently. They're not creating their own path. They're walking yours while trying to overtake you. Here's the psychological trap. Their constant comparison forces you into defensiveness. You start hiding your achievements because sharing them triggers their competitive response. You start downplaying your wins because you know they'll immediately share theirs. You begin moderating your own success to avoid activating their envy. You're letting them steal your joy. Machiavelli wrote that men are more ready to repay an injury than a benefit. The shadow competitor sees your success as an injury to their ego, and they're determined to repay it by proving they're better. But here's what they don't understand. Authentic achievement doesn't require comparison. People who are genuinely successful in their own right don't need to measure themselves against specific individuals. They're competing with their own potential, not with their friend's Instagram feed. The test: share a success and watch whether they celebrate or compete. Real friends feel joy at your wins. Shadow competitors feel threatened and immediately need to establish their own superiority. Machiavelli knew that a secure prince doesn't fear the success of his allies. Only weak princes need everyone else to fail, so they can feel powerful. The shadow competitor isn't your friend. They're your unauthorized biographer, trying to write a better story using your life as the rough draft. Machiavelli spent his final years in exile, betrayed by almost everyone he'd trusted. He died relatively unknown, his greatest works unpublished, his political career destroyed by the very dynamics he'd so brilliantly analyzed. But in that isolation, he discovered something crucial. The only fortress that cannot be stormed is the one you build inside yourself. We've examined 7 archetypes of human toxicity, 7 types of people who will systematically dismantle your peace, your purpose, your power. But here's the truth that Machiavelli understood at the deepest level. They can only do this if you allow them access. Every fortress has gates, and you control yours. The subtle colonizer can only indebt you if you accept unrequested favors. The chaos merchant can only destabilize you if you believe their manufactured drama. The achievement vampire can only steal your work if you share it before it's protected. The innocent destructor can only damage you if you keep giving them responsibility. The loyalty auditor can only isolate you if you doubt your own judgment. The boundary archaeologist can only excavate your limits if you don't enforce them. The shadow competitor can only disturb your peace if you accept their framework of comparison. Notice the pattern. Your power lies not in changing them, but in changing your relationship to them. Machiavelli's ultimate lesson wasn't about manipulation or ruthlessness. It was about clear-eyed recognition of human nature followed by strategic response. Don't expect scorpions not to sting. Expect them to sting, and build your life accordingly. This doesn't mean becoming cynical or closed off. It means becoming discerning. There's a profound difference between openness and naivety, between kindness and foolishness, between trust and blindness. The question isn't, how do I avoid all dangerous people? You can't. They're everywhere, woven into the fabric of human interaction. The question is, how do I recognize them quickly and respond appropriately? And the answer is through pattern recognition and boundary enforcement. Watch behavior over time. One incident might be a mistake. A pattern is a personality. Don't fall for words when actions tell a different story. Don't accept excuses that contradict evidence. Don't maintain relationships out of obligation, history, or fear of being judged. Machiavelli wrote that a prince must learn to be not good when necessary. In modern terms, you must learn to prioritize your well-being over others' comfort. You must learn to say no without guilt. You must learn that protecting yourself isn't cruelty, it's wisdom. Your life is a fortress. These 7 types are siege engines, each designed to breach different walls. The colonizer undermines your autonomy. The chaos merchant clouds your judgment. The vampire steals your achievements. The destructor wastes your resources. The auditor isolates your allies. The archaeologist erodes your boundaries. The competitor corrupts your joy. But they cannot enter unless you open the gate. And here's your final test, the one Machiavelli would have insisted upon. Look at your life right now, your relationships, your inner circle, your daily interactions. Can you identify these archetypes? Because if you can't, it's not because they're absent, it's because you're not looking closely enough. Or worse, because you've normalized their presence. Machiavelli's wisdom wasn't published until after his death, but it survived 5 centuries because it speaks to something timeless about human nature. We are surrounded by those who would use us. The question is whether we'll wise up before it's too late. Your fortress awaits your command. Will you guard it or leave the gates open and hope for mercy? history suggests mercy is in short supply.